with another episode of Mission Control, the BWE Podcast. I'm Ryan Dentscheff. For today's episode, I sat down with Mike Hogan, the owner and founder of HomeSpring Realty Partners. HomeSpring Realty Partners develops affordable housing down in the San Antonio area. This interview was recorded at the HomeSpring office in San Antonio back in November as a part of the BWE Working Together campaign, highlighting our mission to create more affordable housing across the country. We traveled to various affordable housing properties across the country, interviewing developer clients and residents who live in these affordable homes BWE helped finance, to hear their stories about how affordable housing has impacted them. To learn more about these stories and our impact, visit bwestorybook.com. And now for the full interview with Mike Hogan.
Well, I'm Mike Hogan. I'm the owner of Hogan Property Company and HomeSpring Realty. We do tax credit housing as one of our primary developments.
Just kind of get it started. If you kind of just tell a little about yourself, your background, how you got here, how the company got to where it is, everything like that.
Well, let me skip over the first 20 years. Did a lot of industrial warehouses, office buildings, and some apartments. I worked for some national developers. And started my own company in 1982. And after going through the late 70s with another company that I was partners in and starting my own company, going through the ups and downs of real estate, good times, bad times, through the 80s, through Carter, through Reagan, we were always we either had money or we had no money. It was feast or famine. And it was hard to build a stabilized company. So in the mid 90s, we decided to look into tax credit multifamily housing. That's when my net worth got back to zero. I wasn't negative and I wasn't positive, but it was zero. And myself and Ginger, who's been my work wife for 36 years, decided to try to build a platform that was more stable. It allowed us to have stable employees, stable access to capital, and something that would not be affected so much by the ups and downs of the real estate market. So we did our first tax credit project. We started in 99. I think we completed it in 2001. And since then, we've built about 5,000 units over that period of time, and it has done exactly what we had hoped it would do. We have a stable of properties that aren't for sale. They don't turn. It's not a portfolio that's selling and buying, and it's not investor. I call it more mission-based housing instead of investment-based housing. Typical multifamily, we build it, keep it for 2 or 3 years, then we sell it. That's the typical mode. But when you do that, your management company has got people going in and out. You just don't build a long-term relationship in management, and you sure as heck can't do compliance that way. So tax credit requires compliance. So today, we've got one of the best, I think, management companies in the state of Texas. We certainly have the #1 compliance department, and we have long-term employees, 15, 20, 25 years that have been with us because we have a very stable portfolio. We give good benefits. So all the things we set out to do, although it took a little while, and not to mention all the political backdrop to all this, has been, I think, very successful, and we've been able to build really good product.
We talked about, you kind of made the comment about your net and stuff like this and getting to zero. Obviously, when we talk to people who are involved in affordable housing, it's not really just about the investments in that. The affordable housing component of it is really important for, I'm sure important for you, or else you wouldn't have this company doing what you do. So I guess we can talk about, the affordable housing side, why you're so committed to getting more affordable properties, kind of what impact it has on the community, the need, all that kind of thing, just the overview of affordable and what you guys do in it.
Right. Well, for us in the industry, I think we know what benefit it has to the community. The irony is a lot of the elected officials will talk and support affordable housing, but behind the scenes, they become reticent to be involved because they have a neighborhood that may come out and not want affordable housing because they don't understand what it is. So, but it's important to any community to have a wide range of housing, and we've selected to do affordable for the very reasons I mentioned earlier. But it We don't make a lot of money, but we make good money. It allows us to have 180 employees and their families putting their kids through school. Every time we build one of these, 30% of it is payroll that goes into the community. So when we build a $60 million project, we've got $20 million in payroll that goes into the direct community. So there's a lot of benefits other than the very fact that we're building a very nice, high quality, affordable environment for people to live in. And we're doing it in the inner city environments, which is very difficult. And we take great pride in that. And the politicians that know us and what we do have always supported us, even when we get into a scrap with the neighborhoods. They allow us to go in and work through the issue with neighborhoods. We do a memorandum of understandings with neighborhood associations. We kind of pioneered that here in San Antonio. So it's had its rewards, but it's a lot of work. But everything that's good does that. And we've been able to build in good times and bad times when the market has been shut off to market rate guys. So that is another benefit of what we've tried to accomplish here.
How would you say and we'll talk a little bit about Medio Springs, and we were there yesterday, the high quality, affordable housing. It's something that you really wouldn't drive past and think, oh, that's affordable housing. Yeah. So has that changed recently? What's been like the last 10 years or so in the affordable space? And then like a little bit, we'll talk about what you guys specifically do.
I'd say in the last 15 years, and particularly since we started, if you look at our first product, which was Eagle Ridge, versus probably our third project, we were getting our feet on the ground. And one way to do that is to take a standard building type, and we had our architects do that, and then you can put different elevations on the same building. So when our contractors and subcontractors see our set of plans, they've been there before. They know what it's going to cost now. Except for code changes, it's pretty much the same. So you'll see the same product that has different roofs on it, has different exteriors, even has a little bit different elevation, but underneath it, the core buildings are the same. So having something in production housing that you can duplicate over and over again gives you advantage on the cost side of it. And we pass that on by putting nicer roofs on and doing nice amenities. So it was a process, but it put pressure on other developers to build nicer stuff. They still don't build the quality we have, but we sure changed the quality that the city of San Antonio is expecting.
When we talk about Medio Springs specifically, I think, it's just complete. When did it complete?
Oh, about 3.5, 4 years ago, actually.
Yeah, so pretty new.
Yeah.
What was kind of the thought process? And you kind of spoke on it a second ago, but maybe a little bit more detail and specific with that property, since we're interviewing the residents there and things like, kind of like I mentioned, you wouldn't really even know that it's an affordable property just by looking at it. What is the mindset for building the quality that you do and build properties like that, where they're high quality, they look great, they're comfortable for the residents, but they're still on the affordable, they're still in the affordable space, kind of what your mindset is and why you build to those standards, I guess is the question.
Okay. But I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. I know this is an interview, but when you drive by an apartment complex and it has the name, a person's name on it, it's a housing project. And now you've stigmatized everybody that lives there. Well, where do you live? I live in the Herman Miller Village. Oh, well, you're Section 8 housing. So part of this is you don't want to stigmatize the resident. And one way to do it is give them something that looks market rate or even better. What we build is actually better than a lot of the market rate stuff. So we haven't gone out and stigmatized the people who live there. I mean, that's one of the major things. And when the neighborhoods are worried about what you're going to build, and you promise to build something, if you don't have, in the early going, we didn't have much to show them. Now we take them on a bus tour of our existing projects, and we say, this is what we're going to build. And they go like, wow, that's not what I thought affordable housing would look like. They're scared that what we build is going to hurt the value of their homes in the neighborhood, even though apartments in general don't have anything to do with evaluations of homes in the neighborhood. The only thing that affects value is maintenance. If you have a home and the guy next to you is not maintaining it, that affects your value, not the well-kept apartment complex on the corner. So getting neighborhoods to understand what we're building and our commitment to managing them was very important part of this whole transition of building this nice housing in large scales. These are large scale projects. They're all 250 to 384.
And then we talk about, not wanting to stigmatize the residents and things like that. I guess if you can kind of speak from your experience, like who's living in these properties?
I can only give you the perspective from San Antonio, but virtually every time, 30%, and it's almost to the unit, go to seniors on fixed incomes. This is a great place for them to come, still be with younger people, not be isolated, and can live on their fixed income. And it's roughly 30% every time. It's kind of frightening. What we learned during the pandemic, because we were worried that our default rate was we thought default rate might even go into the 40% percentile. So the irony was that since we had 30% of our residents on fixed income, that money's coming in. They got income coming in. And then we have roughly about 15% of our residents are on some kind of a voucher, which again, that's coming in. So all of a sudden, all the things that people don't want in their projects, we're collecting rent and they're not in market rate. I thought it was kind of an irony. The people you don't want are the ones that are actually paying rent. So that's who lives in our apartments. A lot of them are from the neighborhoods. They moved out of their home and gave their home to their kids, but they want to live in the neighborhood and they want to live somewhere nice in the neighborhood. So a lot of them have moved out of their house, given it to the kids that were living with them, the adult families that have lived together, and now they can live in the same neighborhood area and have their own privacy away from the children. And there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that.
A couple more questions. One is, we're talking big picture, beyond Medio Springs, beyond maybe even San Antonio, just kind of what you see as the future of affordable housing. What does that kind of look like?
Well, it should be good. It should be good. The Section 42 program and the HUD D4 program account for a tremendous amount of rental housing. Now, I'm really speaking about rental housing. There are programs for single family, but they take so long to produce housing. You're having to do subdivision work, lots. You're only producing one unit on a lot. Hard to get any volume going. I can build 400 units in 22 months. They can't do that. Unless the programs get tampered with, they should work. They've already provided a lot of housing. I don't see it going away. There's a lot of good advocates, both even when the Republicans were in. They pushed back on some of the tax credit legislation, but later, particularly when Trump was in, he was trying to do inner city redevelopment and realized the tax credit program was important to that. So they kind of backed off. So I have no reason to believe there won't be it'll continue on in some form or fashion. They might change the value of the tax credits, the allocation to the states. But overall, you need it. You got to have it. And you can either build new stuff that makes sense, that communities want, or you're stuck with old apartment projects that have changed hand 10 times, they've got no reserves, and the guys that own it are leasing it to anybody at any kind of rent. And that tends not to be a good product in your neighborhood. That's when they start to affect your value.
I think lastly, I think Cindy Hannon had mentioned you've done a few projects with Bellwether. I guess you can just talk about your ongoing experience working with Bellwether and that relationship with Bellwether Enterprise that you guys have.
I think we've done 6. I'm not sure, but we've done quite a few, both in the HUD genre, and we're now doing just bond deals and not doing HUD financing. So we've done both with Bellwether. Bellwether has delivered in some very difficult environments because we oftentimes are strung out with neighborhoods. We're waiting for cities to make their decision. We're waiting for allocations from the state. And they start with us very early, and they work with us as we go through the underwriting. And at the end of the day, they produce, and they've produced some pretty hard stuff for us. So I'd like to think that we have a great relationship with them. We have an honest relationship where we can pick up the phone and say, here's the problem. it's not your problem, but it's a problem, and how can we work together to resolve it? And to date, there hasn't been a problem that we haven't worked through, including the one we're just about ready to close, Callison Ranch, where we literally had to have the housing authority condemn the property to get rid of a deed restriction. And the housing authority had never condemned anything in 50 years. So that was a heavy political lift for us, but Bellwether stayed in there, kept the lender in there. AHP, our equity partner, stayed with us, and it's going to close in December. So we're great service.